it's Mel. I have been keeping a capsule wardrobe for about 8 years now, and the last 2 years, I would say, I have really slacked on how I maintain my capsule wardrobe. I think mostly that has to do with the pandemic and what kind of clothing I'm wearing and where I'm going and how I use my wardrobe. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about why I don't buy new clothes and how I keep my capsule wardrobe. When I was younger and even today, I love clothes and I love clothes shopping and I love to come home with new pieces. But when I was younger, I would always shop at fast fashion stores, mostly things like TJ Maxx or those kind of clothing stores where you can get more luxury items but for cheaper. But I also spent a lot of time in Old Navy. I spent a lot of time in Target and a lot of time in other extremely bad for the environment, bad for humanity stores, buying clothes that weren't well made, were probably going to fall apart, possibly didn't fit me well, and were eventually just going to end up in landfill. I did also shop in thrift stores and places like that because I've always loved thrifting and I've always enjoyed finding vintage pieces. I've always loved to find clothing that other people might have loved at one point but got rid of, but most of my time was taken up with fast fashion when I was young. I definitely shopped a lot. I spent a lot of my money on shopping, and as I got older, I did cut down on that to a certain extent, but I would also use shopping as a way to feel happy or get a little spark of happiness when I needed it and to follow trends and things like that. Once I started to realize how bad fast fashion is for the world, and once I realized how bad it is for our environment, I really slowed down on my fast fashion purchases. But that probably only happened about 12 years ago. 12 years ago, even 10 years ago, even 8 years ago, I was still buying some fast fashion here and there, but I had cut down quite a bit and was shopping mostly secondhand or trying to shop more environmentally friendly and humanity friendly, sustainable products. That's not as easy to do as it sounds, I think, because I really fell into greenwashing to a certain degree and not really knowing how to find sustainable fashion and keep within my budget. So I was lured by clothing brands like Everlane, which is a seemingly inexpensive, sustainable fashion company, but unfortunately they're not nearly as sustainable or humane as they make themselves out to be, and really they're not as good quality as they make themselves out to be either, which means that they are not really as affordable as you might think. Today I shop exclusively in thrift stores, rummage sales, or I get secondhand clothes from friends, and I am very rarely tempted to buy fast fashion, and I never actually purchase fast fashion clothing. I can remember that the last fast fashion clothing that I bought was a dress that was on sale when I first moved to Asbury Park in a big name fast fashion store. Although I really like that dress and I have worn it quite a bit and I have kept it for many years, it is a little bit of a symbol to me of why not to buy fast fashion. Another fast fashion clothing item that I bought was a red knit cap that I needed for a Halloween costume, probably circa 2016. And this also is a good reminder why you should not buy fast fashion, because not only did that hat fall apart fairly quickly, but it is now lost and probably ended up in landfill. I think there were 3 big turning points for me with fast fashion. One was realizing that, and this had a huge impact on my overall sustainability and zero waste journey and why I wanted to be more sustainable in my entire life, is that nothing that you have ever had and nothing that you have ever thrown away or gotten rid of is gone. Everything that you have thrown away still exists on this planet. Every toothbrush that you've ever used and then thrown away exists in landfill somewhere. Every piece of clothing that you have outworn, outgrown, thrown in the trash, donated to a thrift store, maybe it got a second life, maybe it went somewhere else first, but eventually it is going to turn into trash of some variety and it is going to end up in landfill. At best case scenario, it is going to mostly decompose, but since the majority of fast fashion is made with plastic fibers, it is just going to turn into microplastics, which ends up in our oceans, clogging up fish guts and then ending up in your body as well. Almost all of the drinking water in the world has microplastics that can be found in it. All those things that you think are gone are not gone. That realization made me understand what a small global community we are and how every action and every decision that we make, right down to what clothing we buy, is impactful of every other person, animal, plant on the planet. Another big realization to me was just how poorly the creators, the makers of fast fashion are treated, how the people who are living mostly in other countries than America are overworked, underpaid, and often in situations that are abusive when they're making this clothing. And I think our society, especially in America, is almost brainwashed not to think about where products come from and who makes those products and the conditions under which they make them. So fast fashion includes clothing, but it also includes homewares. It includes towels, sheets, bedding, pillows, furniture, all sorts of things where every item in your house might have been made by someone who was neglected or abused. Once you start to kind of think of that, then you can't really look at the new cushion you got from IKEA the same way ever again. You can't look at your new piece of clothing the same way ever again. And then the third realization about fashion that pushed me over the edge not to buying fast fashion was the way that fast fashion pushes trends on people and pushes the idea that you have to have the latest and newest thing to be fashionable, often in disregard of how that piece of clothing makes you feel, how it was created, where it's going to end up, and what it looks like on you. So the idea of trends and trend chasing is something that I used to enjoy looking at and finding those trends super cheap in a place like Target, but now I look at very differently when it comes to clothing. 3 reasons that I find thrifting to be great is that 1, you are reusing something that someone might have otherwise thrown away or might have otherwise ended up in landfill. So yes, every object that we've ever had is not gone, it's still on this planet. But the best thing that we can do with that is to reuse those items and give them new lives as much as possible. So the first good step with fashion is to wear something that someone else doesn't want. If your friend has a hand-me-down, or if you go to a thrift store or a rummage sale, a church sale, you can find something that is great for you that if you don't use it might just end up quickening its demise into microplastics, or quickening its voyage to a third world country that not only doesn't want these things, but has no way of safely disposing of them. So to me, using something that someone else doesn't want makes me feel so much better about using that object in general. I love the feeling that something well loved is now loved again. And I love the idea that my objects that I once loved can be passed on to someone else who will get better enjoyment out of them, or a second life out of them when their usefulness is over for me. The second thing that's great about thrifting or buying secondhand clothes is that you are supporting people who work in those industries. I really appreciate that there are Etsy shops, there are secondhand boutiques, there are thrift stores, so many different ways that you are supporting not only the object that you're buying, but the people who are working there. We need to support those less corporate things and try to keep our mom and pop economy alive, and thrifting is one of the ways that you can do that. If you're not shopping at a mom and pop shop, maybe you're going to a church sale and you're donating to that community. Maybe you're going to a rummage sale. One of my favorite rummage sales is coming up in a few months, and all the proceeds go to a local school. So you can find a lot of great ways to purchase secondhand items, but to also support local communities. And the third point is that you can follow trends without having to cater to the trend wheel that fast fashion produces. So many times you can find secondhand clothing that fits a trend or that fits a fashion statement that you're looking for without having to buy fast fashion and without having to buy into the idea that you should always be buying new items. One of the reasons that I love having secondhand clothing is it still allows me to buy frequently. I certainly don't buy as much as I used to buy. I certainly don't buy as frequently as many Americans buy, but if I see something in a thrift store and it's only a few dollars, I can go ahead and try that item of clothing, see how it fits into my wardrobe, knowing that I can always redonate it or donate it to another thrift store or church sale. Not only will I give it another life, but it can go on and have another life after me as well. Partly because I buy quite a few items of clothing throughout the year. Again, much less than many people. Buying those items, I can't possibly wear everything that I've ever bought all the time. So I love having a capsule wardrobe to be able to switch seasonally between clothes that I've had for many years. Some of the clothes that I've had for up to 30 years, and new items, new trends that I might have seen in the thrift store and picked up. A capsule wardrobe is a really simple idea for shopping your own closet as well. So it's easy to make a set of clothing that you're going to wear either seasonally or monthly or yearly or half yearly, whatever it is that you decide. And then the other clothes that remain in your backlist kind of closet, you can go through and pick out when you're needing an inspiration, when you're needing a change. I will go months and months without buying any clothing and simply shop my closet, which is a great way to get use out of all the clothing that you've worn and also to feel fresh and new, but with clothing that you love and that you know you want to wear. The last few years with the pandemic and with other things that have been going on, my kind of taste in clothing and my style has changed a little bit. I've developed a sort of different, more casual style, and although that's still in development and although getting clothes secondhand is helping me with that, I know there are a lot of things in my backlist of clothing downstairs in my wardrobe that I will be able to pull and use. But because of the pandemic for the last 2 years, I haven't been changing my wardrobe as seasonally as I usually do with a capsule wardrobe. I've kind of only been putting a few pieces in and taking a few pieces out every few months when I feel like it or when I think of an item of clothing that I miss and that I really want to wear. What I'm going to be doing over the next month or so is creating a series of capsule wardrobe videos and making a new spring summer capsule wardrobe for myself, as well as going through all my extra clothing in the basement and seeing, now that I have this new style, what I can get rid of, what I can redonate, or what is still going to work for me. Let me know if you keep a capsule wardrobe. Let me know if you shop secondhand clothing. Let me know what questions you have about capsule wardrobes and about how I curate my capsule wardrobes in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks much. Bye.